Hey, it's Mike Jacob coming at you from Jerusalem with our thought for the week. First of all, big mazel tov to my dear friend Chaim Elephant, who's having his ufruth this week. Him and his new college will be zeichet to build a Vaeschanan in Yisrael. Shabbos Chazon is upon us, and we'll go up one notch in terms of getting in the mood and getting ready for Tisha B'Av. And Tisha B'Av is a time that we all know is a time to cry. But you know what? Sometimes we don't really understand, what does it mean to cry? What are we crying for? If we look at the source of Tisha B'Av was when the Meraglim, the spies, came back from spying out the land of Israel, and everyone was crying. They were crying. They wanted to go back to Egypt. They weren't happy with going to the land of Israel. What was this crying? God's reaction at that time says, listen, you're going to cry about that? I'll give you something to cry about. And Tisha B'Av was created. What does that mean? What was going on? What are we supposed to cry about? And what is crying? If we go back, there's a story early on in the Chumash, the story of Leah and Rachel and Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov escapes Esav and ends up in Haran by the house of Lavan. And we know Lavan has two daughters. One is Leah and one is Rachel. The Torah says about Rachel, she was beautiful, she was destined for Yaakov Avinu. But Leah, what does it say about Leah? It says Leah was crying. So if you look at Rashi, Rashi tells us there that why was Leah crying? Because everyone knew that Yitzchak, Rivka, had two sons, Yaakov and Esav. And Lavan had two daughters, Rachel and Leah. So it made sense that Yaakov would go for Rachel and Leah would go for Esav. And because of that, she cried. So the question is, was she really destined for Esav? And you know what? The answer is she really was destined for Esav. But what did she do? She cried. What does it mean that she cried? She had, her inner core was hit by this reality. Her inner core was shaken by that reality. And she didn't want that. And she wanted better for herself. She wanted a different reality. She did not want the reality of Esav. That was not what she wanted. And she wanted the reality of Yaakov. And that hit her inner core. And she wanted different for herself. She cried. That's what was going on with the Meraglim when they came back, and the nation of Israel when they came back. They cried. It hit their inner core. They didn't want to go to the land of Israel. They didn't want to deal with the struggles of building the spiritual land, the home of God, of building the land of Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to go back to Egypt and the comforts, whatever, that they had over there. It was an easier life in Egypt, and they cried. They cried. They wanted to go back. That's a misuse of the power to cry. They cried incorrectly. It hit their inner core that they wanted different. They didn't want to go to Eretz Yisrael. They wanted better. They wanted the Gashmias of the land of Egypt. And they misused the power of crying. So Hashem says, what has to hit your inner core, what has to really be meaningful to you is spirituality. And later in history, when the Jews were in the land of Israel and things weren't working, the Beis Hamikdash was taken away from us. Spirituality was taken away from us. And it shocked the Jewish people. And it shocks us from generation to generation not having that. It's something that wakes us up, and it's supposed to wake up that inner core, that inner feeling of what we really are missing. And what we're really missing is better spirituality. All of us in our own lives, we have to look at ourselves and be bothered with our own personal state of spirituality. And we have to look at the land of Israel. The land of Israel, Eretz Yisrael, is not what it should be. We don't have a Beis Hamikdash. The spirituality of what's supposed to be here is not here. And as the Gemara tells us, as the Talmud tells us, those who are zocheh to cry for the destruction of the temple will be zocheh to see in the rebuilding of the temple. It has to bother us. That's something that should bother us. And not all the other, nonsense, so to speak, in life that bothers us. I don't have this car, I'm short on cash, whatever it is, those are issues. But that shouldn't bother us. That shouldn't hit our inner core. What should hit our inner core is we're lacking in spirituality. Eretz Yisrael is not what it looks like. And if we have these thoughts and we have these feelings and we think about it, will be part of the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. It should be speedily in our days. Shabbat Shalom and take care.